So at the time when we first got the email, it was just basically from Paramount saying, hey, we'd love to fly you out to come to the Mission Impossible premiere. So Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie came out. Christopher McQuarrie told us his editor, he showed them our channel and our reaction to Fallout, Mission Impossible. And to hear them tell me that, was we had no idea that they'd seen us before, let alone knew who we were. But that was crazy. I was just telling Carly the other day, I'm like, I like to secretly think that it's like a guilty pleasure of Tom Cruise and he checks in on the channel every once in a while. But I don't think that's true. But in my mind, you know.
3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast, brought to you by Passion Fruit. I'm joined today by someone very special I've been looking forward to talking to for a little while now. Someone I would describe as a new pioneer in the space. It is Cassie from Popcorn in Bed.
Hello, happy to be here.
So happy to have you here. I know, it's been a little time going, trying to get this stuff sorted out, but we're finally here. And, I was not, I think, overestimating what I said, which is I do think your foothold you've had in the space over just a short few years has really been very impressive and very influential in a way, I would say. And I'm very happy to have you here and just cover sort of how that came to be. But as we always do, we start from the beginning. And your Popcorn in Bed, it's a movie reaction channel. One of the hallmarks of the channel is your relationship with film or lack thereof starting out. So I wanted to ask, what was your relationship with movies growing up, and how did that sort of set you up to be, where you are now, watching most of the classics on camera?
Right. So I grew up, I don't think I was sheltered looking back. Maybe I was a little bit, but I, grew up watching Disney movies like probably all of you. And then as I got older, I didn't watch a ton of movies. I watched a lot of TV. I was really into TV shows. But when I did watch movies, I would always tell my friends, I'm like, only something with a happy ending, chick flick, romantic. I didn't want to watch anything that would make me feel sad or angry or, gory or scared. I was very ignorant, I guess, in that way. And so I never watched all of these classics that people talked about. And it was almost like a party trick. I've never seen Jurassic Park. I've never seen Back to the Futures. I've never seen Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. That was a big one.
Yeah. Well, I was curious, was it just film that you had those gaps in, or was it like television as well, or other media, stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. The shows I watched were Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, all of those Thursday night specials. And those obviously had some drama and big feelings, but same with books. I would read the first chapter and then I would flip to the last chapter to see if it ended how I wanted it to. And if it didn't, I would not finish the book. And if it did, I would read the whole thing. Right. But I don't know why I was so against feeling anything but a happy thing, but that's just how it was. Same with my sister, who joins me on the channel sometimes too. Her even more so than me. So
yeah. As I mentioned, you're one of the many people in the space that started, I think, right in the midst of the pandemic, and that was a huge boom for the reaction space in general. For yourself, your experience, was the lockdown and the pandemic and that sort of isolation a part of how you started the channel and why you started it?
A little bit. We had been looking for another job, for me to have a way to help contribute financially, and my husband would come to me with these ideas, and I would mostly shoot them down. Entrepreneurial. I am not entrepreneurial mind He is. He's a risk taker. I am like, no, get a steady job with a steady paycheck. And like, but we were living in my mother-in-law's basement. And when he came to me with the idea, I was almost doing it to humor him. Like, sure, that sounds ridiculous that someone would want to watch me watch a movie, but I'll try it, basically wanting to say yes to something. And really, we didn't have anything to lose. So, yeah, and it was helpful during the pandemic that I think just more people were online and lonely and missing friendships and connections. And this was a way that we eventually found out was a way to feel like you were watching a movie with a friend.
Right. And were you familiar with the reaction space in general prior to that? Or was it something your husband's already introduced to you for the concept?
I had never seen any reaction of anything. I think I knew that people I think I knew about it for music a little bit. Like people would go on and talk about the new album or something if they were really into, but I had no idea that I didn't spend any time on YouTube prior. But my husband liked YouTube, and that's the thing. He saw a reaction to The Matrix, and he was like, and then it started popping up more reactions, and he got thinking like, Cassie's never seen any good movies, and she's pretty dramatic, emotional, so we should try this. And like I said, I recorded the first one, and for the first 8 or 9 months, I literally put my laptop on a laundry basket, turned over, was recording with my phone. It was very amateur, but that's how we got started.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, and
exactly.
That's how you get things going. And where did the name Popcorn in Bed come from? Besides the obvious aesthetic of Popcorn in Bed, how did you sort of decide on that was the name for the channel?
Yeah, I told Ben when we were thinking of a name, I was like, I just want it to feel cozy and comfortable, and I don't want to be acting like anything. I'm like, I just want to watch a movie, my favorite place to watch a movie, in my bed, eating popcorn, watching a movie. Right. So it was almost selfish because I just wanted to be comfortable, but I did want the channel to have a very cozy, comfortable feel. I was going to wear my pajamas for every reaction, but then decided against that pretty quick.
You started with The Shawshank Redemption, which is, a big modern classic. And that was at your husband and your brother's recommendation. Did you have any specific strategy for how you wanted to start with what films in the beginning?
We knew we would start with Shawshank because for years it had been a thing that my brother and my husband had tried to get me to watch. So they constantly were like, that's one of the best movies ever made. It's so dumb you haven't seen it. And so I knew I would start with that one just because it had been years of getting ragged on for not seeing that. Right. And then after that, it was kind of a mix of, we'd look at the comments, we were basically so new and such rookies that we were just looking to anyone so we'd look at the comments and, oh, you should watch this, and have you seen this, have you seen this? And soon we had this huge list, and as far as in the order we went, there wasn't really a rhyme or reason in the beginning, just, Saving Private Ryan was one of the first ones, because that's another huge cultural movie that I had not seen, and then eventually got into Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, all these classics that it was pretty fun to catch up on. Yeah,
all the staples. Yeah.
Yes.
Was there any significant learning curve in terms of, say, the technical aspect of, the lighting, the recording, editing, so on, but also the performance aspect of just being on camera and sort of being on, so to speak?
Right. Yes, a huge learning curve, and it's hard for me to go back and watch those first ones, because one, the production quality was so low. Like I said, I was recording on my iPhone, I was watching on a tinier screen, and we didn't have the money to invest in a nice camera or microphone or any of that until quite a while after we got going. So I remember Ben saying we should buy this camera, and it was $600. And I was like, are you crazy? We only have a couple hundred subscribers. We cannot use that money, $600 to buy this camera. And we did eventually. And like I said, I was like, it's fine. It's fine the way it is. We're getting new subscribers. And now looking back, I'm like, I'm so glad that he had the eye to be like, people also like to watch, things that look good.
Right.
And as far as like the reacting part of it, for one, I would record like 20 intros when I first started out. Like, I don't know. It was so hard. And now I do it in one take almost every time. It's so much easier that way. I don't ever want people to think that I'm like acting, but it's definitely you have to just be engaged.
Right.
And, I think nowadays, especially when we watch a movie, it's like, we're scrolling our phone or walking around, cooking dinner or something. And I think that really helps me be on because I can't have any distractions. It's just me in the movie. And I feel like that does help me like connect deep into what the movie is.
Right.
But yeah, it just became easier. And now I go to the theaters and I have to catch myself from not like talking out loud or like to my friends, like, okay, they're like, chill.
Yeah, the reactor impulse that I've heard that a lot from people. Yeah. And when you started, you had, as we said, sort of the opportunity to have a captive audience because so many people were stuck at home at that time. Do you recall what that initial feedback was like when you started and started getting some traction from the comments on those early videos?
Yeah, I remember people saying things like, and different parts of the world were in different stages of lockdowns and restrictions and whatnot. But I remember specifically Australians were like, I literally haven't left my house in months, like have not watched a movie with a friend. I live alone. Like this has been so helpful to turn on and feel like I'm watching with a friend. And also the feedback of just people wanting to share something they love, right? Like I recently watched Dune 2 and I loved it. And I went on a girls' trip just this last weekend with my cousins and 6 of them like had not seen Dune 2. And I was like, what? I want to watch you watch Dune 2 because I loved it so much. I wanted to see what their reaction would be. And hence it's not so silly to, watch someone watch a movie because of that. You love this movie or show. You want to share it with people and you want to see what they think of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely why I, fell in love with the reaction space in general. It's like I've always loved watching movies that I cared about with new people, showing that to them for the first time and sort of reliving it vicariously through them. And so that's kind of like what the space provides. It's very fun in that way. And once you had that traction through like, some of the early iconic franchises, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings, so on. Did you ever hit a point where you're like, okay, this is like a real thing? We need to start thinking of this as like, something for the long haul.
Yeah. So like I said, I was never a risk taker. And so this is probably a terrible way to look at life, but I was like, if it works out, it works out, but I'm expecting it not to. Right. So I kind of always had this like, well, and I would tell people about it and they're like, well, even if it lasts a couple months. And I was like, yeah, like, let's just hope for a couple months. Yeah. And then, as we kept growing, I literally was like, okay, if we got to 100,000 subscribers, that would like be mind boggling. And then we got there and it would keep going. And eventually, my husband was burning the candle on both ends. So he was working a full-time 40-hour job and probably putting 40 plus hours into the channel. He was not sleeping. He was editing for like YouTube and Patreon, and it was way too much. And so about a year ago is when we decided that he should maybe come like full time on Popcorn in Bed. And that was so hard for me to like lose our insurance and lose the security. But I think that was like our big step in, okay, this is real. This is now both of our jobs are, and that at the beginning it was really hard because I felt a lot of pressure all of a sudden. Right. Like, because he was now working for Popcorn in Bed and Popcorn in Bed, has to pay our bills now. And what if something happened, or I don't know. But I think that big jump was originally with him coming onto the channel.
Yeah, it's a big leap, and it's
Yes.
both a luxury and a risk, to be able to have that opportunity. Did you have any sort of parameters for yourselves when you thought like, okay, we had to have sort of X, Y, and Z in order to make sure we can like make that jump?
I mean, we wanted to see that our income would, not be like this too much, but at least for like the last 6 months, be like, okay, we generally know what the channel brings in. But like I said, it's still a lot of pressure, and I know that we're like so blessed, and like you said, it is like a luxury to be able to work together and do this both. But yeah, we're just hoping to keep on trucking up, and then if at some point it takes us to pivot, that would have like literally kept me up before at night. But now I think, okay, we'll figure it out. And he's like so good at the business side of things, and I love doing this right now, so it's working really well right now.
Yeah, it's a good pairing. That's what you need: the business and the sort of on-camera creative side of things. Yeah,
totally.
That's how you make it work. Well, one of the reasons I called you a pioneer up top was because when you started, you decided to focus on movies, and for a long time in the reaction space, that wasn't really the precedent. Movies weren't, I think, people were really reacting to heavily for up until about 2019, 2020 when the pandemic hit. And you're sort of like what I would refer to as a third wave reactor in terms of what your generation brought into it, being like the movie reactions alongside with HBO putting movies out same day as theaters, stuff like that.
Right.
You kind of helped open up those doors, and you've done some TV show reactions on the channel over the years. But what made you gravitate towards films specifically to make that sort of your bread and butter for it?
I think starting with films let a bigger audience share those things, versus TV shows can be a little more niche. I don't know. We say one in Canada and one's American. I don't remember which one it is. So, but yeah. And just because I had been getting such a hard time for so many years of all these movies I was missing out on, that once I got a taste of it, like once I started realizing, oh my gosh, I actually loved this war movie, or this really sad thing that I swore I would never watch. Once I got a taste of that, I just wanted more, and to experience all the genres that I had been hiding from my whole life. So I think that's why we started with movies. And then the TV shows that we have done, we've mostly tried to do miniseries. Just so it doesn't completely take over the channel with a TV show, but they've all been quite widely recognized as like some of the best TV that I have missed. So
yeah, it's good sort of parameter to have for yourself to go after those. And how would you say your appreciation and your literacy of film has grown over the years, just exposing yourself to all these new genres and titles?
So I think I've watched like over 400 titles now in the time I've had the channel. Oof. And I cannot believe like all the pop cultural references that were just like going over my head. And but B, like I said, I've explored these new genres, and before I'm like, oh, I don't like Westerns. Like I would never, that's boring and dusty. And now, like, I've watched some Westerns that have been so, so good and that I've loved and wanted to share with people. I also can't believe, like, how much my mind now, like, I'll see something and I immediately think of a movie that reminds me of that. And, like, we were in Charleston visiting my cousin this last weekend, and so many things. We went and visited these old slave quarters. And had a whole presentation on from slavery to freedom. And although the presentation was good, I said to my cousins, I'm like, you guys have to watch 12 Years a Slave or Selma. Like, it all just makes it so much more real when you have those characters and stories that you can connect with, seeing that individual story play out. And, you know, things like then we were walking through Charleston and it was where the first shots of the Civil War were fired. And then I thought of the movie Lincoln and I was like, you guys got to see this, because it got me so interested in history and these true events that I watch. And also, if they're not true, I find myself like Googling for hours after sometimes of a movie, because it just like makes the story come alive for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to know how that has, grown within inside you, like that appreciation and that sort of contact point to reality with film. Obviously, someone who I've loved film since I was a kid. I've grown up with it, so that contact point has always been there. But yes, like it's interesting to see things in the real world and be like, oh, that reminds me of this movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, living in LA, those type of things. Yeah, like those connections are always there.
And I still, even after all, like, I feel so excited when like a movie references another movie or something. I'm like, I understand that. I get that reference. Like, it's so fun. It's so fun for me.
Yeah. Well, another important element of the channel was your sister Carly coming on to join you for some of the reactions over the years. Initially, what was that like, I guess, bringing her on? Did you have to explain to her the concept and sort of the dynamic of being on camera for that?
Yes. So this is silly, but in the beginning, I was actually embarrassed. Not embarrassed, but I was very hesitant to tell my family. Like, I literally didn't even tell my mom, who I talk to every day, or Carly about the channel. I'm not sure why. Part of me was like, well, what if nothing comes from it? And then that would be embarrassing for me. Not that it is, but I don't know. Right. So about 4 or 5 months after starting it, that's when I first told Carly, I'm like, hey, I have this secret job right now. And I explained it to her, and she was exactly like me. Like, didn't spend time on YouTube, had not seen any reactions, she was excited for me because we needed the opportunity to have additional income. And so she was really excited that I had found something that was helping, but like kind of wary of it at the same time.
Right.
And eventually I was like, since you have also not seen any good movies and are also dramatic and emotional, would you like to come and try and watch it with me? And it's crazy to watch her first reaction. It was to Jaws. Yeah. And Carly, like, I would say my scare threshold is here and her scare threshold is like down here. Right. So Jaws was at that point the scariest thing she had ever seen. And we were jumping out of our seats, and but it's crazy to watch Jaws and how much more comfortable she is in front of the camera.
Right. Yeah.
And my audience loves her. I love watching movies with her. It's just, it's so nice to not just talk out loud, but have someone to go back and forth with. And
yeah, that's what I was curious about. Like, the dynamic change, be able to voice your opinion to someone sort of in real time rather than sort of the abstract thought of like speaking out loud. Yeah.
Totally. And sometimes it's funny to watch back because she'll be like, I think this and this. I'm like, no. And then it'll happen. Like, so it's fun in that way. And just like, we are getting to spend more time with each other than we ever did before. She lives an hour away, and not than ever before, but for the last few years. And so, now she comes at least once a week to watch a movie. And not only do we get to watch a movie together, but we get to catch up and hang out, and she gets to see my kids. And it's all, that part of it has been wonderful.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously family plays an important role in your life. And that's always sort of the most fascinating thing about my perspective watching this, is seeing the people who have full families and doing this also like very successfully. I said this to you off camera, but I got into this field because my good friend Yvonne Snow was a single mother, and I wanted to help her just take some load off of her work so she didn't want to edit at night, when her kids are trying to sleep and so on, and she should be sleeping. And I just found out, recently through a friend of mine, Taylor Lorenz, the early content creators were mommy bloggers. They're people who were just single mothers living at home and just writing about their lives. And it's interesting to me watching that come full circle with people like you and, other parents who just find ways to express themselves through creation online. Totally. So for you, how did you sort of manage that work-life balance, I guess, at first, when you were first starting the channel, has that evolved over the years as you've gotten, obviously a bigger audience and more responsibilities with it?
Yeah. So, I am still working on that work-life balance. Still have not figured that out, but trying my best. In the beginning, I would say for the first year, maybe 2 years, my husband and I did not go to bed before 2 a.m. Like, that's when we did everything after the kids went to bed. And so, I would do all the mom things, especially my kids are 3 years older now than when we started. So when we first started, I had a baby and one that was only in preschool. So I had little kids at home. And my baby still is at home, but I couldn't, there wasn't a time where I could be like, okay, I'm going to go watch a 2-hour movie. You guys just hang out. And so everything had to be done after they were in bed. And then Ben was spending 18 plus hours editing a reaction for YouTube. So he never slept. And so we were very tired those first few years. Now, we still don't get a lot of sleep, still go to bed very late, but I have tried really hard because I was reaching a point where I was like, this is not sustainable. Like, I can't function on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So I hired my mother-in-law to nanny for me a couple days a week, and just for 4 or 5 hours. And so that is when I try to just zone in, and I try to watch my movies now mostly during the day so that I can do the things I need to for the house and the kids and stuff after they go to sleep, and not going to bed at 2 a.m. anymore. Right. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Costco and do all my errands while my mother-in-law watches my little girls, because that's so much harder with kids. Yeah, but anyways, right. I'm still figuring out the work-life balance. It's hard because especially with content creation and social media, it always feels like there's more you could be doing to getting bigger. And, we should diversify and be doing more on TikTok, and we should be doing more on Instagram, and we could be doing a second channel on YouTube. And so there's always that back of your mind, like, are we doing enough? Not to mention, like, thousands of comments I wish I could reply to, and Patreon messages. And so it's hard to be like, where you can still feel good about the content you're putting out and the amount of time you're putting into it, while also not, taking away from your family completely. So that's hard. Like, it's not like a job where you, at 5 o'clock, you go home and don't get to think about it anymore. Yeah. It's always like, oh, we could be doing more. Yeah. I should be doing this.
Yeah. Your brain is always on for that sort of thing. And as you grow, it's like, it feels like, more spinny plates are added to the chorus of like what you have to manage. And so balancing that, the core factor is being on camera and reacting and having a genuine, experience. Do you have any sort of mantras or, tactics to get in the zone of like sort of pushing that out for the sake of like just being on for the camera and being in there for the reaction?
Being like present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to make sure, like, before I start a movie, I like to like write down my to-do list for the next day, or things I like have to get done for my kids before they start school in the morning. I have to write that down, get that out of my head, or else it's like in the back of my mind, like, don't forget to. So I make sure that part is out of my mind. And then personally, I don't look up anything. I know some people will look up like the actors or the cover. Personally, I try to go into it as blind as possible. There are a few times where people have said it would really help if you read this little thing before or whatnot. But obviously my phone's on Do Not Disturb. The door is closed. It's very no interruptions. And I try to go straight through. I try not to stop because it makes it harder for the editor. So, right. And I've always been the person that, people like, oh, my husband will fall asleep to every movie, or I was never that way. Like, once I started something, I was into it and could not go to bed, even if I was so tired. Yeah. I could never fall asleep during a movie or in the theater. My mom falls asleep in the theater. So I think that helps with reactions, is that I have always been able to really get into something.
Yeah. And you mentioned, mentioning the theater experience, as we talked about earlier, there's obviously a different dynamic, different presence that you have when you're watching a theater, but you've done theater reactions before, recording yourself in a rented out theater for a screening of a movie.
Yeah.
I guess, how is that different for you being in that atmosphere as opposed to being at home on your bed?
Right. So, yeah, it was during the pandemic when theaters were struggling. There was an opportunity to rent theaters for pretty affordable. It was very
Right.
affordable to rent a theater. And so there was certain movies that I didn't selfishly want to deny myself seeing in the theater. And so we tried it for Dune was our first one, and I was so sad because it didn't really work because it was very hard to get the audio right and our microphones weren't picking up enough and it was picking up too. So it's on Patreon, but it's not great. And so we learned from there. But my favorite one, actually, it was Dune.
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't work technically, but like we invited a lot of family and friends, and me and Carly were just in the back row, and then everyone else was kind of around us. But it was really fun to like have that theater experience with family and friends and hear them laughing and screaming and shouting and then be able to talk about it right after.
Right,
Like that was my favorite part of going to the theater, is getting in the car and like just talking about the movie for the whole ride home. So that part was really fun, to get to go around and talk to everyone about their thoughts and stuff
Right.
about the movie. Now theater reacting isn't very accessible.
Yeah.
It's super expensive, and the theater we originally worked with, who was like cool with us bringing cameras in, is like, obviously we weren't recording the movie just ourselves, but it's hard to convince a movie theater manager like, hey, we want to bring in all these cameras and microphones.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was really curious about that. Did you have to explain to them what the situation was ahead of time to like get them to convince them to let you in with the equipment?
Yeah. Luckily we just like, it was like a local theater, and a guy that we were just like, here's the deal. We will not turn the cameras the other way. Everything is just recording us, nothing of the movie, because obviously it's so tricky with copyright and all that. But
yeah, I mentioned this on another interview I did, but like one of my dreams is to have a reaction theater, is to have a theater that's like built with the specific parameters for like people to sit in, like, say, like isolated booths with like soundproofing audio so they can record themselves and like have that theater experience. I would just love to see people be able to have that different dynamic on camera like you were able to. Yeah.
Well, now that you mention it, so we recently finished our basement. It took a whole year. We're doing it with my father-in-law and Ben and his brothers basically did the whole thing. And one of the things we really wanted to do was a little mini theater room. And so we were able to, I mean, it's small. It's nothing like super grandiose and whatever, but it's got a theater chairs and it's got a big screen. It's got amazing sound. And one of the things they did was actually soundproof it, like layers of all of these different types of materials to soundproof it. And so we've done one or two reactions in there so far, and that's been fun. But it is, some people are like, oh, I miss the bed, or it doesn't seem as cozy. And so we're not going to do all of them there or all of them here, but it's nice to have that option.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, people are like, you have to see this one on the big screen.
Yeah.
And so ones that are especially geared towards theaters, I think we'll try to do reactions in the little theater room.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I wish everyone had the opportunity to have that dynamic,
too.
because
So
there's for some movies, like the theater experience like cannot be understated.
Yeah.
But to mention obviously the theater experience and just how important that is to most people, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up something that happened to you very big last year, which was being able to attend the Mission Impossible red carpet premiere. And that was such a sort of, again, from my perspective, watching the space, a sort of miraculous pathway for, someone recognizing what reactors do and someone recognizing someone in the space, at least. How did that come to be? I guess being able to get in contact with them, and then what was the experience like going to the premiere?
Yeah, it is still miraculous to me too that it all happened. It feels like a dream still. So at the time when we first got the email, it was just basically from Paramount saying, hey, we'd love to fly you out to come to the Mission Impossible premiere. And it was like 2 weeks before. I wish I would have recorded the call telling Carly. We were like freaking out, so excited, just because we've never done anything like that. And it was such a good opportunity and sounded so fun, like a trip to New York, and figuring out travel and all that was kind of crazy because we were in Canada visiting my parents and she was in Utah. Anyways, we made it. And then once we got there, so Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie was the director of Mission Impossible, came out, and we were told, Christopher McQuarrie told us how, he's like, do you guys know why you're here? We're like, no, we watched all the Mission Impossibles last year on the channel.
Right.
And he told us that his editor, Eddie, who we've talked to since, they were in Africa and they were filming the second part of Mission Impossible, part 7. Second part. Anyways, and he was like, Eddie called them over. He's like, Chris, Tom, you guys got to come see this. And he showed them our channel and our reaction to Fallout, Mission Impossible. And
Right.
to hear them tell me that, was like, we had no idea that they'd seen us before, let alone knew who we were. But that was crazy. So, they were quoting us, back to us, which was like, he was like, we loved when you said this. And I was shaking like a leaf, but it was so cool. And then to watch the movie with the cast down there and have them come out and talk about the making of it, and the cast was like a once in a lifetime experience. I was just telling Carly the other day, I'm like, I like to secretly think that it's like a guilty pleasure of Tom Cruise and he checks in on the channel every once in a while. But I don't think that's true. But in my mind,
yeah, it's nothing stopping you from believing that. So
yeah,
it's cool.
exactly, right?
I can tell you differently. But there's been occasions, where studios reach out to reactors for promotional materials or things like that, or they shout them out on social media. But this feels like a whole new threshold that have been crossed, and I would love to see more of it from people. Obviously, because there's such passion in the space for these studios and or for the products that are being put out by the cast members and the directors, and just seeing that love reciprocated in a way is just so really special. And
I agree.
And for you, once you were able to come back from that and sort of come back down to reality, did that sort of change any, like you mentioned, thinking that Tom is out there watching you, did that sort of change any sort of relationship you had with the channel in terms of how you view it, how you feel it's being viewed?
I don't think necessarily any changes. It was really cool to see the support and response from everybody. The vlog we made of our weekend there. It was really fun to share that with our audience, and I feel like they kind of got to be a part of it too. And they, were experiencing it through us. But I don't think we changed anything per se. Other than okay, maybe what if this could happen again? And it seemed like kind of the perfect, storm of getting us there. So I don't know that those things would line up again. Plus, we don't live in LA or New York where it seems like a lot of these premieres are. And I see some, TikTokers all at all the premieres and stuff. And I feel like I'm too much of a mom to be there I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that.
All right. It's difficult. I mean, even in being in LA, I think it's difficult too.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to be there. It's just 5 miles away, but it'll take me, an hour to get over there through traffic and stuff.
Yeah.
But looking forward towards the channel and everything. Again, it's been, a few years since you started just through the pandemic and everything that's going on. How has, I guess, the dynamic changed overall as sort of the world heals and you feel just there's more opportunities again for in theaters, for stuff coming out, for content being put out again, even for your relationship with the audience, stuff like that. Has there been any sort of significant shift you've seen?
Well, it is interesting. I feel like not only the reaction space, but kind of like you had said before, the whole movie scene is changing with all these streaming services putting out movies, and some are going straight to streaming, some are doing in theater and back a little bit. And so at least the circle that I'm in, it feels like people are going to the movies a lot less, the actual theater a lot less. Oh, I'll just wait the 3 weeks before it comes out.
Right.
And I don't know if that's helped or hurt the reaction genre. At least my audience, it seems like when we're looking at views and analytics, that the newer movies don't do as well on my channel as more of like the cult classics and stuff from 80s and 90s. And I don't know why that is. It's maybe because I started there and didn't start with the newer stuff. But as we've grown, my dad, he's like, you got to stop doing 3 a week. You're going to like run out of movies. And in a sense, we have done some of like the huge series like Star Wars, Mission Impossible, Lord of the Rings, these like very big names. Right. And in a sense, we kind of are done with those. But it excites me that I have literally spreadsheets of thousands and thousands of movies that people love. And, I'll watch something and it just makes me so excited that there's still so much good to come. We just started X-Men. I'm having so much fun watching that. Right. There's still so much to watch. And that's exciting and also like overwhelming because we get so many requests. Like, you have to watch this movie. It means so much to me. And I hope to do that like for as long as they'll let me. Like, we'll just keep watching movies.
Yeah. That backlog is, I think, pretty stable for a good while.
Yeah,
being able to just look at the breadth of films that you can watch, especially once you get through those large genre pieces. Being able to then like hone it in and being like, okay, here's all the sort of like smaller films that people have a lot of like cult classic appreciation for. Those things are very gratifying experiences in themselves. Yeah.
What's your favorite movie genre?
Horror, I think I might say. Yeah. Overall. But obviously I'm really big into comic books and, sci-fi and stuff like that as well. But it's funny, my girlfriend and my partner, she is very similar though. Like, she has a wider breadth of film knowledge than I do, but even today, she's still like, I don't want to see anything that's going to make me feel depressed. I prefer not to. I prefer to watch something that's going to make me happy in the end.
Yeah, it is tough. And even after seeing all this, like, when there is even the slightest little bit of redemption or happiness at the end, it is good to end a movie feeling like that. And I think everybody would, but then I've come to find that a lot of people don't like that. They're like, I don't like when everything's tied up with a bow. Yeah. I'm like,
some people like the hurt. They do.
Yeah. Or they cheer for the bad guy, which is like mind-boggling. It never even crossed my mind that people would cheer for the bad guy, but some people do.
Yeah. And something that happened recently, I think it's important for us to bring up for the sake of awareness in the space. If you could share with us as much as you can, is the unfortunate circumstance of having your Google Drive being taken down that you mentioned on social media from a DMCA takedown. I guess, is there any status update to like what happened there with that?
So we did get it back. It took a long time, like just barely got it back. So it's been a month or two. I'm sure all reactors can attest to like the whole copyright thing is our biggest headache. And I see some comments that are like, well, as it should be, like you are stealing someone else's material. And that's hard for me to hear because if people wanted to watch the movie, they would just go watch the movie, right? It's not the movie that they're tuning into. It's to see mine or whoever's reaction to this movie. And so with the Google Drive thing was unfortunate because it was the night before the Poppy Awards, which are these, spoof award show that we put on for 3 years now. And it was literally the night before. So like all of our montages and the results of all of the voting, everything was just gone. And, as cool as AI is, this was clearly like a bot thing, I think, because half of the stuff that we were in infringement of we've never seen before. It was other reactors somewhere on the internet. Right. So it's tough because it almost feels like it's guilty before innocent with copyright stuff, especially now that it's like just bots who will flag it once you upload it. And then, once you finally get through the appeal process and all that, I'm sure that once it finally gets to a human, they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. Click. And it gets rid of it. But like, it's so frustrating to get there. Yeah. But luckily, after lots of phone calls, and if we didn't fight it, I don't think we would have got it back ever. Luckily, Ben was very on top of that, like, we need this back. So
Yeah.
we actually just got a claim today on Patreon that, like, this is where the movie is completely blurred out and there's zero sound. So people have to have their own copy of the movie to watch along on Patreon. And we got a claim on a completely blurred out movie. And it's like, you obviously didn't actually watch anything. It's just an automated response. So they basically said we have to take it down within 10 days. And it's like a whole thing. So it's frustrating, but worth it, I guess, still in the end, obviously.
It's a tricky practice because you're doing it, what I would say is by the book, like having the sort of blurred reactions and having that transformative nature to the material, so you're not just sharing it in full. But yes, there's definitely issues that I've seen through other creators and other reactors, that there are third-party companies out there who utilize bots and AI scripts to find things based on just titles, and then that just flags their content and gets rid of it. It's very detrimental to people because even that small downtime is hard to sort of recoup from very quickly.
Right. Yeah, and especially like, I mean, we've learned over the years the best way to deal with them, but in the beginning it was like very scary at first when we started getting copyright stuff. Like, are we doing something wrong? And like, the more we looked into it, it was like, no, fair use does apply. And we realized that it was kind of just like hit or miss whether the bot picked it up or whatnot. Yeah.
There's still, I think, a lot to learn about the fair use aspect of like what reactors are sort of bringing to the table. Something that I advocate for a lot is just that people are providing unique commentary from person to person. Like anyone you watch, it's not the same experience. You can't watch one reactor and to another and just like feel like it's going to be the same thing. You're just watching the movie. It's all different. And so that's why I feel like it's important to educate people a lot about how much work goes into this and how much creative thought goes into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, like every person who views a movie is viewing it through an individual lens of their experiences and their, thoughts, emotions. So everyone is going to have a different reaction. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. And it might tie into one of our main questions we have here for wrap up is what has been the most consistent obstacle you faced with the channel over the years?
Well, on the technical side, definitely the copyright stuff.
Right.
But personally, the biggest obstacle, and I touched a little bit on it before, is finding that work-life balance. And I figured out a while ago that my default emotion was guilt. Like I was just constantly feeling guilty. And maybe even subconsciously, I didn't realize. But, I was feeling like if I was trying to do all this extra all in for the channel, and my patrons are paying me monthly, and I do not take that lightly. Like, I know that for some, it's a stretch to pay that money monthly and to be part of that community. And so I wish that I could answer and reply to every single comment, or people will share like very personal stories with me and their experiences watching these movies or just watching the channel has brought to them. And so if I would go to Starbucks, I'd get a babysitter, and I would take like 3 hours and try to reply to as many messages as I could. And people sent heartfelt stories. So I wanted to send a heartfelt reply, and I would get through like 9 messages in 3 hours because at some point it just wasn't feasible for me to reply to every message or every comment or every DM. So I feel really guilty about that. And then at the other side, if I, took a week off or only got 2 movies out instead of the 3 because I was with my family or we went on a trip or, extenuating circumstances, my parents came to visit from Canada, I would feel guilty about that. Anyways, I'm still working through it, obviously, but trying to find that balance, trying to find hours where I'm all in on popcorn in bed and then all in with my family, not being on my phone, not replying to comments or notifications that pop up. Because it was like that for a while, like where my kids felt like I was always on my phone and I was like, I'm working. Like, I'm not just doing this for fun. I tried to let them know, but that's been the biggest obstacles, and I'm still working on it, like I said, trying to find that balance of times that my husband and I are like, okay, we don't talk about the channel all night. Like we got to just take a break. We got to clock out, for lack of a better term, but we're still figuring it out, but it is getting better.
Yeah. It's always, good to try. Keep growing from it. But that ties into our next question, which is, how do you feel you've personally grown over with your time with the channel?
Well, I feel like looking back at my old self, I was like, you were so ignorant and so not dumb, but I chose to not investigate anything further, right? I learned what I learned in school about World War II, and that was it. And I probably forgot all of it. But the biggest change for me personally has been the world that has opened up of all these other genres and the learning that comes with it, even if it's not based on a true story. Like, I love courtroom dramas. I never knew that before, and that's like made me so interested in the law and that kind of thing, and the stories I see on the news now versus before. Just like, it's almost like I had just blinders on for the world and history and everything. And so I've also come to find out like the connection that movies can bring, which I never would pair that together before. But like, people I can have these full animated, such exciting conversations with because we both love Lord of the Rings or we both love something. I love being able to have those conversations and connect with that person through the movie, which is crazy, but it seems so obvious. But it's so fun to talk movies with people. And like, to my dad, like, he's watched Star Trek Next Generation. I remember it always on the TV growing up. And I didn't really think anything of it as a kid. Same with stuff like Indiana Jones or whatever. Didn't think anything of it. But now to be able to talk to him about it and, I call him like, hey, have you seen this movie? And we get to talk back and forth. And that's been really cool to like connect with people even in my life before the channel through movies that I kind of just wrote off before. So
I mean, that connection is definitely important. It's definitely one of my favorite aspects of filmmaking and storytelling in general, is like how that bridges the gaps between your knowledge of people, the empathy machine, as Robert Ebert would call it. Roger Ebert would call it.
You explained that perfectly. Bridge the gap between people and their storytelling.
And the final question we have here is, beyond any monetary or financial value, what is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
Just the community. And I know that sounds cliche, but when I tell people about the channel, they're like, oh man, you probably get so many trolls or perverts or whatever. And I'm like, you're wrong. Like, yes, we do get those, but it's very slim. The community that I have been able to gather is so supportive. They are so kind. The conversations that I've been able to have, or the stories that have been shared with me because of the channel, have been like so special. And I've built like lasting relationships with some of these people I've met through the channel. And I just, to hear that sometimes I get imposter syndrome, like it's just watching movies on the internet. But then when people will share with me, I was going through something, like I was in a really depressive period, and like when you had a new release, it was like a little bit of light like shone up in me, and like I'm like, what? Like, to have that even tiny impact on something has been really, really rewarding. And I think my community, I'm really, really lucky to have, because the internet can be ugly for sure. Yeah. But I like to think that at least my space is a beautiful, kind, and supportive space on the internet, which I think is rare these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something to appreciate when you have it in this day and age.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We do have our final questionnaire that we give to everyone, just 10 questions sort of down the line for you. So the first question is, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Of all time?
Yes.
Holy crap. of all time. This might be recency bias because I've seen it so recently, but I loved
fine.
The Last of Us. So
Yeah.
that's in recent memory, that's my favorite.
I'll take that one. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. What is your favorite film?
That is asking who my favorite child is. I think the Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah.
So really liked. I don't know. I'm just gonna say Lord of the Rings.
That's common answer, and that's a very valid answer. I would definitely put that up as one line. Yeah, no, definitely not. I appreciate that. What stresses you out?
Pretty much everything. I am a natural worrier, but flying, the ocean, dark spaces, tight spaces, heights. Yeah. And then just I'm overwhelmed easily. I have anxiety. I don't know. I get stressed out about most things.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm taking my first flight ever next month, so I'm a little nervous for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll do great.
What helps you relax?
A good TV show, a bath, and a night out with my girlfriends.
Mm-hmm. Great. What is the hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
I love party planning and I love interior decorating.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Ooh, that is a good question. Fictional character do I relate to? Oh man, there's so many. I usually find ways to relate to most every character. Mm-hmm. But what was I watching recently that I was like, this is my life? It was the movie Parenthood, actually, I think, with Keanu Reeves and Steve Martin. And I mean, there's different characters in there who are related differently, but basically, like, they're trying to find work-life balance. They're overwhelmed, little kids, and dealing with relationships and issues. So that was one that I can think of recently.
Yeah, that's great. What is your guilty pleasure show or film?
Oh, guilty pleasure show is definitely One Tree Hill from high school. And I like all those, like the OC and Desperate Housewives, like those early 2000s dramas.
Yeah, it's good nostalgia.
Yeah.
What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Ooh, besides going to New York and watching that film there, that experience, some of my favorite reactions of myself are actually the ones where I'm like crying my face off, but because it just like feels like vulnerable, but real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like things like The Patriot or Cinderella Story, but also things like Rocky. I don't know.
Definitely all the emotionally, viable ones. Get something out of you. What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to on the first time on camera?
I was just telling someone this weekend that there is a scene in The Shining that like still pops up in my nightmares with like the bear head and like and in the bathtub, like those still pop up. And so I kind of wish I could scrub those. Not the whole movie, because I like that I'm a person who's seen The Shining. I feel like if you want to be any kind of movie person, you have to have seen The Shining, but those still pop up in my brain.
Yeah, that's fair. Our final question is, what advice would you give to your past self when you first started the channel?
Be optimistic instead of the opposite, pessimistic, because it was stressful thinking like, what if this is the last one that gets views? What if they hate me? What if they reject me? What if they get sick of me? So I think just be more optimistic, glass half full, believe in yourself. That also sounds cliche, but I wish I could have back then.
It's a very important advice, I think, for anyone at any given day to remember for themselves. Yeah. Cassie, so thank you so much for being here. It was fantastic to hear everything. I'm very happy to have you on and have you in the space as well.
Thank you so much. That was so fun to talk about and get your perspective on kind of things that sounds like you have been in this space for a long time and so have some like really unique takes, and the people you've got to talk to is super cool. So thank you again for having me. I feel so honored.
Of course, yeah. It's I've been here for a while, but there's still surprises every day that I'm finding new people.
Yeah.
It's a big space. Where can we find you on YouTube or social media, anywhere otherwise?
My channel is called Popcorn in Bed, and then I have an Instagram that is also at Popcorn in Bed, and those are probably the two main places to find me.
Great. If you're watching this on YouTube for us, please like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. You can also subscribe to the Passion Fruit newsletter, where we put out news on content creation every day, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.